Welcome to the Basic Material Editor Tutorial Part 2. Next we will bring in the Spec Texture, and we will do this in a different way, perhaps a quicker way, by simply selecting it in the content browser, clicking on it, and dragging it into the Material Editor. We will line it up over here. And similar to the other nodes, we will click and drag the black tab into the specular tab for our material. Now, we didn't see much change there, which means that we probably need to move our light around here and get it so it is shining on our object. You can move the directional light in the preview tab by holding L, left clicking, and dragging around. So there it looks like we can see it on the material pretty well. Also in the preview pane here, you can left click to rotate the material. You can right click to zoom in and out, and you can use the middle mouse button to pan around. Alternatively, here you can use some of these buttons to change the shape of the mesh you are previewing the material on. For our purposes here, since we are creating a metal wall texture, we will stick with the plane option. Now, we can see here that our spec isn't doing much to make this look like a metal material, so we are going to do some further manipulations here to our spec texture in the material expression graph. First thing we are going to do here is just break this connection of the specular texture to the specular connection here by Alt left clicking on a tab. Alt left clicking will break all connections to the tab that you click on. And we are going to use a hotkey to bring in a new expression here. I want to bring in a multiply expression, so I'm going to hold M and left click in the material expression graph, and that will bring in a multiply expression. There are many similar hotkeys to bring in various expressions like this. You can check out the wiki that we've created for this material editor tutorial to see many of the useful hotkeys similar to this one. The next thing we are going to do here is bring in a constant expression. You can do this by dragging it in or holding 1 and left clicking in the expression graph. And we are going to click to select this constant expression. And down here in the properties pane, we are going to change this value to say around 48. And rearrange our nodes here so they're in a more organized space. And what we're going to do now is we're going to multiply the effect of the specular texture here. We will drag the black tab of the texture, spec texture, into the A slot of the multiply, and the black tab of the constant we just created into the B tab. And we can press spacebar to see a real-time update to what this multiply has done to the two expressions here. And you see that it has made the specular texture quite a bit brighter in the areas where we want to see some shine on our metal wall. So now we will drag the output tab of the multiply we just created into the specular. And we can't quite see it now, but we will drag our light into the scene, and you can see that it has made the specular quite a bit brighter. But it's still not quite where we want it. We're going to make one more little adjustment here to improve how this specular looks on our material. And what we're going to do is just create another constant in the expression graph here. And we are going to give this one a value of, we'll start out with 32. And we're going to drag this constant into the specular power, which should sort of narrow the effect that the specular is having on the material. And that worked to do a little. It still seems a little too bright, so we can lower the brightness here to say 32 on our multiply, and we can even narrow things down a little more with our specular power. And that's starting to look more like what we're going for here. Oh, I should have verified this was 32 first, and then tried to move my light in the scene. We'll get this light back in the scene here. There we go, there it is. And now we have the texture looking fairly well for our purposes here. You can see the bump has turned, or the normal has turned out pretty well here. You can see some depth in the dents here, and with the metal paneling and this bottom molding here. And so that is our first simple texture here. If we wanted to apply this to, say, a simple BSP wall, we could do that real quickly here. We will click the arrow to apply and save our changes and exit out of the material editor. We will check out our material here in the content browser. We can save our package here by right-clicking on it and choosing to save it. Then we'll momentarily exit the content browser and quickly create a little room here so we have a wall to apply our texture to. These default settings will work fine. We'll make it hollow so we have some interior walls to work on. We'll build that brush and click CSG add to create our little room here. And open our content browser back up. The quick way to do this, we select the material in the content browser and alt click on the wall we want to apply it to. Alt left click. And you'll see the tile, or the texture, has come in tiled a bit, but we can quickly fix that by clicking on the wall here, pressing F5 to go to surface properties, and under scaling here, simple, we will scale that to, say, about 2 times the original size, and there we have our texture on the wall. That is pretty much all for creating our basic texture here. Just a few things to note about the material editor is that the material editor is an extremely powerful tool that can do many more things than what we've done here in this little tutorial. Lots of practice, experience, and experimentation are key to unlocking the true potential of this tool. So be sure to check out some more of our tutorials here so you can get a better idea of the things that this powerful tool can accomplish. That is all for now. Thanks for watching.